The rain was coming down in relentless, heavy sheets,
ankle.
transforming the
I
asphalt
think I
into a
twisted it.
slick,
Let me take a look.
obsidian mirror of the night. Everything changed. Ethan, a hard-working 32-year-old auto mechanic from a quiet, forgotten small town just outside Dallas, had finally locked up the bay doors of his shop. His muscles ached from a long day of labor, and he was heading home when he saw it. A sleek black luxury SUV pulled halfway onto the muddy shoulder of the road. At first glance, through the downpour, he thought it was abandoned, just another breakdown. But then he spotted a faint, ghostly glow inside, like someone weakly moving their phone screen. Something about the angle of the vehicle didn't feel right. It sat awkwardly against the darkness. He slowed his truck down, rolled his window down to the deluge, and called out into the storm. That's when he heard it. A shaky voice, soft but utterly terrified, cutting through the noise of the rain. I can't walk. Please help me." For a moment, his heart stopped in his chest. He grabbed a heavy-duty flashlight and rushed toward the crippled SUV. Inside the beam of light, he saw a woman in her early 30s, rain-soaked, trembling violently, and clutching her leg in agony. Her clothes were undeniably expensive, tailored and chic, her jewelry even more so, glinting in the flashlight's beam, but her eyes were filled with raw, primal fear. It was not the confidence he usually saw in the eyes of people who drove cars like these. She whispered again, desperate and pleading, "Please, I can't move." And just like that, in the pouring rain, Ethan's night took a turn he never expected. Before the story unfolds further, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment to support our channel, Storyverse. Your engagement helps us bring more inspiring stories your way. Ethan didn't waste time thinking about the rain or the cold. He pulled open the driver's door, carefully helped her into his arms, and carried her toward his truck, shielding her as best he could. The woman winced in sharp pain with every step he took, but she kept apologizing, almost whispering the words into his chest. "I didn't see the ditch. I shouldn't have been driving in this." He gently reassured her, his voice calm, telling her everything would be okay, even though he had no clue what had actually happened to her leg. Once she was secure in the passenger seat, dripping water onto his old, worn fabric seats, he slammed the door, ran around to the other side, and immediately turned on the heater to full blast. She hugged her arms around herself, shivering uncontrollably from shock and cold. "My name's Madison," she said in a trembling, small voice. "Madison Hale." The name didn't mean anything to Ethan at all. He nodded, introduced himself simply, and immediately drove toward the nearest hospital, navigating the slick roads with care. On the way, Madison tried hard to stay conscious, white-knuckling the dashboard as every bump sent fresh waves of pain through her injured leg. At one point, amidst the rhythmic sound of wipers, she whispered, "I'm sorry you had to stop. You don't even know me." Ethan simply replied, keeping his eyes on the road, "You were in trouble. That's all that matters." She stared at him like she wasn't used to hearing something so simple and transactional-free. When they finally arrived at the hospital emergency bay, Ethan carried her inside, where the nurses rushed over with a gurney to take her. As they placed her on the stretcher to wheel her away, her hand reached out, desperation in her grip, grabbing Ethan's grease-stained sleeve. "Please don't leave yet." Her voice sounded small, fragile, like a child's. He nodded solemnly and followed as far as he was allowed before the double doors swung closed behind her. Hours passed slowly. Ethan waited in the bright, sterile hallway, soaked to the bone from the rain, grease still smeared on his hands from work, his stomach growling with hunger. But he didn't leave. Something inside him, a quiet instinct, wanted to make sure she was okay. Finally, a doctor in scrubs approached him. "Are you family?" the doctor asked, looking at his clipboard. Ethan shook his head. "Just someone who found her on the road." The doctor thanked him sincerely for bringing her in, explaining she had a dislocated knee. She had severe swelling that needed immediate care. She'd be okay, he assured, but she wouldn't be able to walk properly for a while. When Madison woke up after her treatment, groggy and sore, she saw Ethan sitting by her bed, his chin resting on his hand, looking utterly exhausted. She blinked, confused by his presence. You stayed. Ethan smiled a little, a tired but kind expression. Figured you might want someone to check on you. That's when the truth finally came out. Madison was one of the youngest millionaires in Texas. She was the CEO of a tech startup that had exploded in success over the past 3 years. She was everywhere in business magazines, high-profile interviews, and popular podcasts. Ethan didn't know any of this because he didn't follow any of that world. She told him how she'd been rushing to a crucial meeting that night, stressed, overwhelmed, and exhausted. She didn't notice the washed-out patch of road until it was too late to brake. The moment she felt her leg snap, panic took over completely. But what surprised her most wasn't the accident. It was Ethan. She wasn't used to people helping her without expecting something in return, a favor or a check. Her world was full of deals, negotiations, and people who always wanted something from her. But Ethan, he just showed up and stayed, asking for nothing. Over the next few days, Madison had no family nearby, no close friends who could drop everything to help her. But Ethan showed up every morning before work and every evening after his shift ended. He brought her food, helped her sit up in bed, cracked terrible jokes to ease her fear. He listened intently when she needed to talk. She learned he lived a simple life, fixing cars, paying bills, and taking care of his younger sister. He didn't come from money, didn't have much in the bank, but he had something rare, heart. One evening, while Madison sat in her hospital bed, looking at him, she asked, "Why are you being so kind to me?" Ethan shrugged, shifting in the plastic chair. "Because someone once helped my mom when nobody else would. I guess I'm just paying it forward." That response hit her deeper than she expected. She realized that kindness wasn't about wealth or status or power. It came from a place money couldn't buy. When Madison was finally discharged, she was told she needed to avoid putting weight on her leg for weeks. She didn't know how she would manage alone in her condition. But Ethan showed up again, offering to drive her home in his truck. Her house was nothing like Ethan's world. It was huge, modern, and spotless, with floor-to-ceiling windows and expensive abstract art on the walls. He almost hesitated to step inside, wiping his boots. He wiped his boots on the mat twice to avoid tracking dirt. But Madison insisted. She wanted him there. Over time, Ethan became a steady, reliable presence in her recovery. He helped her move around the vast house, cooked simple, hearty meals, and even fixed a broken railing she didn't realize had been loose for months. She began to laugh more, relax more, and feel human again, something she hadn't felt in years of grinding work. One afternoon, as they sat in her living room, the sun painting golden stripes across the floor, she spoke. "You changed everything for me," she said softly. "You reminded me what kindness looks like." Ethan smiled, a warm, genuine smile. Weeks passed, and the bond grew. One evening, watching the sunset, Madison said, "I used to think success was measured in money, but now I think it's measured in people like you." Ethan chuckled. "Then you're richer than you think." Their story became a reminder to everyone who hears it. Kindness doesn't cost anything, but it can change everything. The world kept moving, but their connection remained strong and true.